Hey everyone, this is just a quick review of some of the early math concepts that we're going to need to know at the beginning of the semester. So the first equation that we're going to need to know is the margin of error, which is 1 divided by the square root of n. And for this class, and generally always, n is going to be our sample size. So I'm just going to go ahead and write that here. So n is almost always going to be our sample size. But before we get into the square root, let's go ahead and just do a quick review of exponents. So when we have an equation with exponents, we have the base number and then the exponent. And so the base number is the number that is going to be multiplied by whatever the exponent is that many times. So this is 2 squared. So we would say 2 times 2 is 4. So these are all going to be squares because I think in this class we will only need to be worrying about squares. So 3 squared is, we do our base number times itself. Okay, so 3 times 3, of course, is 9. And then 4 squared is 4 times 4 is 16. And 5 squared is 5 times 5 is 25. So our base number is what goes here, and our exponent is how many times we are multiplying it. And so just as an example, if we had 2 cubed, then we would say 2 times 2 times 2. And we would go like that. Okay, but what we really want to think about are the squares, because the square root is just the opposite. So if we go over here, and our sample size, let's say n equals 9, then we would say 1 divided by the square root of 9. And then we would say 1 divided by, and our square root of 9 is just the opposite of the squared. So the square root of 9 is going to be 3. So let's go ahead and look at a couple other examples with this. So if we have a sample size, let's go ahead and just look at 3. Let's say we have a sample size of 100. So we would say 1 divided by the square root of 100 equals 1 divided by 10, because 10 squared is 100. So the square root of 100 is going to be 10. Then, but let's say that we have a sample size that doesn't go into a square root really simply, which sometimes, actually a lot of times, that's what ends up happening. So let's say that we have a sample size of 50. We would have, for our margin of error, 1 divided by the square root of 50, and we would just have to use our calculator to figure out the square root of 50. And I did that ahead of time, so I know that it is 7.071. And I recommend for the majority of this semester that you always want to keep 3 digits to the right of the decimal. And then we'll just do one more. Let's say that our sample size is 573. So we would have 1 divided by the square root of 573. And we would say 1 divided by 23.937. You can get a fancy calculator, or if you have your iPhone will work perfect. So for this, I'm literally just using my iPhone and the free calculator that comes on this. And so if you have that, I would just recommend using this as well. But if you look at this row right here, you have kind of that square root with the 2 and the x. That's the one that you'll want to use. So if you click that, and then let's just go to that 573, and you put that, and that's where I'm getting that 23.37. So again, it's going to give you a lot of digits to the right. As a general rule, I would stick with 3 digits to the right. So the next thing that you need to remember is orders of operation. So if you remember back from high school era, the PEMDAS, and so we have to go, whenever we work out an equation, we have to work it out in this order. So that's our parentheses, then our exponents, then multiplication and division, then addition and subtraction. Bad writing there. So remember that multiplication and division, it's whichever comes first, going left to right. Addition and subtraction, it's whichever comes first, going left to right. So for this, for thinking about our equation of 1 divided by the square root of n, we always have to find n first because that's our exponent, and then we can do the division. So let's just say that it is 100, just to make life easier. So we would say 1 divided by the square root of 100 equals 1 divided by 10, and then you can just work that out and say is going to be 0.1, and that is your final answer. So as a review, when we have an equation with an exponent, this is our base number, this is our exponent. Our base number is what is being multiplied. Our exponent is telling us how many times to multiply that base number. Then our square root is always going to be the opposite of the squared. We're not going to be beyond the square root and the squared, so those are the only ones you'll need to know for this class. And then we always need to remember PEMDAS and the orders of operation. So I recommend doing it just like I did, one step at a time, because especially when we get to chapters 3 and 4 and there's a whole lot of steps, it really helps you kind of keep the thinking straight if you just do one thing at a time. So do your exponent first, solve that, then solve your division. The last thing I'm going to review are fractions, decimals, and percentages, because we will deal with those quite a bit in this course as well. So I always like to start with something simple that we're probably all familiar with, that feels really comfortable. So if you think about 1/2, that is the same as 0.5, which is the same as 50%. So if you ever feel like you're losing your way, go back to something that you feel really comfortable with. And I feel like this is one that we all feel pretty comfortable with. And so you can go back to this equation. But I also want to point out the difference between this, okay, because this is sometimes where people get confused. So we have 0.5, which is 1/2, but we have 0.05, which is a number we're going to work with quite a bit. And for this, I just try to remember to think about money, right? So 0.5 is 50 cents and 0.05 is a nickel, is 5 cents. So again, just kind of, if that helps you, use that, attach it to something you're familiar with. So percentage is actually per 100. And so you're just multiplying it by 100. So for this, you move the decimal over 2 to the right, because 100 has the 2 zeros, so you move over 2 to the right. So that's why that's 50%. If we move our decimal over 2 to the right here, then we're going to end up with 5%. And if we had this in a fraction, it would be 1/20. So just one more example, if we had 3/4, that is the same as 0.75, and that is the same as 75%. So just a few things to remember to help you out if it's been a while since you have taken some math courses. And with these kind of basics in place, you should be pretty good to go. And I will see you in another lesson soon. Bye for now.